This is part 2 on solving trigonometric equations. So now we're going to see examples when there's more than one trigonometric expression involved here. So notice that we have more than one trigonometric expression here. We have sine on the left side and sine on the right side. So how can we still solve that type of equations whenever there's more than one trigonometric expression involved now, or if one side is on the left and one side is on the right? We're going to do this like if you were solving a regular equation, which is you're going to put everything that you want to solve for on the left side. In a way, we're going to subtract sine on the left, on the right, we're going to subtract it to the left because we want to put all those signs together here. So now 5 sine of x minus 1 sine of x, that becomes 4 sines of x. And now it becomes one of the examples that we were solving for. We can combine those sine of x's by bringing it to the left side. So now let's just solve it like we did on our previous video. So minus 2 here. So now we have 4 sine of x equals to negative 2. We want to solve for sine. So we divide by that 4. And now we have that sine of x equals to negative 2 over 4. This is not our final answer. You want to solve for x, not for sine. So how do we do that? We got to multiply by the inverse. Remember that if you multiply by the inverse, you got to check for your second solution. So we're going to do that in a second. So now we have that x is equal to inverse of negative 2/4 here. So let's see, what's the value for that? We're going to find negative inverse, negative 2/4, which is the same as 1/2, negative. So now we have that our first answer, well, let's do that here. X is equal to negative 30. This is my first answer, but notice that we did multiply by negative inverse, so we got to check for the second solution. So how do we check for the second solution here? Second solution. Remember that if you multiply by the sign of inverse, your second solution is always obtained by 180 minus the first answer. So let's do that. 180 minus, my first answer was negative 30. So this becomes a plus. So that becomes 210. So x is equal to 210. Is that true? Yeah, so 210. So we got two answers here. But remember that your answers need to be between 0 and 360. Negative 30 is not between 0 and 360. So our only answer here is when x is equal to 210 degrees. Again, it is the same procedure, maybe a little bit longer, but it's because you first want to put all the trigonometric expressions on one side, and then we can start solving. So let's look at another example here. Let's look at example 6 here. Again, it looks too complicated. We have two trigonometric expressions, we have a square root, we have numbers. So how do we solve for this? Well, before you start getting crazy about this, let's actually just put the cosines on one side. So I always like to put the cosines on the left side. So I notice that here we already have a 7 cosine on the left. So let's move this 5 cosine to the left side. So let's subtract. We're not going to do anything to the square root yet. So they cancel out. So now you have 7 cosines minus 5 cosines. At the end, you just obtain 2 cosines of x. Square root of 3. Alright, so it looks less intimidating now, but still you want to solve for cosine. So how do we do that? You notice that the 2 is being multiplied, so you want to cancel it out by dividing. So now we know that cosine of x is equal to the square root 3 over 2. Excellent. You want to solve for x, so you're going to multiply by the inverse of cosine, left and right. That will cancel out. Notice that we multiply by this inverse of cosine, so you're going to keep in mind that you need to check for a second solution. So now we have inverse of cosine of square root 3 over 2. So let's find that out. What is this value on the calculator? So now we're going to have inverse of cosine, square root of 3, close parenthesis, divided by 2. When you put in a square root, make sure that this parenthesis belongs to this square root. So now we have that x is equal to 30. So we got to check our second solution now. So we have 1. So now what's our second solution? Remember that for sine is 180 minus the answer. So that means that for cosine, it's 360 minus the answer. So now we can start solving. So we're going to have 360 minus the first answer, which is 30. So now that gives us 360 minus 30. So that's 330 degrees. So that says that my second answer is equals 330 degrees. So let's just write down our answers here. So the final answer is when x is equal to 30 and x is equal to 330 degrees. Notice that both of them are between 0 and 360, so we're good. Now here's your entrance ticket. Try to solve the following.